That just brings me to a key question. What are some key characteristics we need to see out of the next head coach? Because you're going to have an interesting blend in this locker room of younger players still kind of curtailing their game, some guys finding their leadership vocality, but you're going to need somebody who knows who they are so that they can really establish the identity moving forward.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing at the NHL level coaching now is communication with the players. Like, you can't come in and just lay down the law and walk out and not take the players' feedback. I think communication is so important, especially with this era of players, that they need to know you're the boss, but they also need to know they can go to you and lean on you when they need to. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that coaches need. And that's why I think, former players have been, very successful, because they see it from both sides. They've been a player, now they're a coach, so they know how to walk that line, and that's a fine line.
Okay, wait, you mentioned former players, and so we kind of want to take it there in terms of candidates, or who would you like to see? There were obviously a lot of rumors ever since the Bruins were eliminated from the postseason. A couple coaches got scooped up pretty quickly. But what do you think about a Marco Sturm or Marc Savard in that, before we get to some of the other possible candidates in that role?
Yeah, I think Marco Sturm has done, a really good job at the AHL level. He was assistant with the Kings. I think Bruins fans remember him as a very emotional player, and he came over to Boston in kind of a tough situation because he was part of that Joe Thornton trade, which was not a popular trade among this fan base. But he kind of endeared himself to the fans because he was very emotional, scored some big goals for them. I think the biggest feather in his coaching cap is leading Germany to a silver medal in the Olympics. I mean, that's not a country you normally think of as a hockey power. So for him to do that is pretty good. And I think he's proven that he can win at the AHL level. Is he ready to make the big step forward? That's going to be the big question that has to be answered.
I think some of the things that I found cool about the conversations around Marco Sturm's name is the fact that he does harness a competitiveness, but he's very big on relationship. He's very big on connectivity. And you mentioned that communication is probably going to be a key factor moving forward. But, Sophia also mentioned Savard, and that's something else that I've seen in the comments a lot about fans being like, I'm all here for Savard. Any thoughts on him in the fit?
Yeah, another emotional guy too. Like, he played here. Unfortunately, his career was cut short by concussions. But another guy that's can be relatable to players because he played and he knows this market really well. He was a big signing at the same time that the Zdeno Chara came in. Peter Chiarelli brought two big guns in, and they had a lot of big wins. So I know. Nikita Zadorov has talked about Marc Savard. He coached him in Vancouver, and he's really liked him. So I think he's another guy that can be very relatable to the modern day player.
What about internally? We have Ryan Mougenel, obviously Joe Sacco, Jay Leach. Do you think the Bruins, or how highly do you think they're considering internal, or are they looking for a fresher, voice? And if you were Don Sweeney, would you consider those candidates?
Yeah, I definitely would consider them. I think the fact that they haven't moved forward with them at this point, and they're all available, like there's not a playoff series or something waiting, is probably not good news for the internal candidates like Joe Sacco and Jay Leach and Ryan, as you mentioned. I think if they were, kind of hell-bent on having one of those guys get promoted, it might have happened by now. So I get the feeling that they're looking for someone from outside the organization to come in and kind of put his stamp on this team.
It feels like the fresh face is kind of starting to drive the conversation. Elliot Friedman said over the weekend that the Bruins have interviewed roughly 15 guys from what he was hearing. Two of the guys on that list are from the Tampa Bay Lightning, which was my former coverage team. You got Jeff Blashill as well as Halpern in the mix. I liked Halpern because I feel like everyone loves little connectivities between Don Sweeney as well as the potential next head coach. Both of these guys, previous Ivy Leaguers, went to the same prep school out in New Hampshire. Both played for the Dallas Stars different times. They're a decade apart. But is there any new name or fresh face that might be jumping around a little bit more to your brain?
Yeah, I think Misha Donskov, who's the assistant coach with the Dallas Stars right now, is kind of if I was a betting man, he would be the guy I think that the Bruins really like. And, talking about drawing parallels, he was an assistant coach for the Team Canada in the Four Nations face-off, which Sweeney was a general manager of. And Don had mentioned when we talked to him on lottery night that there was definitely guys that were still in the playoffs that he was looking to talk to. This guy has a really strong reputation as a one-on-one teacher. He's high on analytics, which I think he started the analytics departments with the Vegas Knights when he was with them. They were very successful. The Stars are obviously very successful this year. Now they're in the Western Conference Finals. He's kind of a name that's under the radar, but I think that drawing those parallels with Sweeney, he would be my guess as the guy that they're kind of targeting, because it's been quiet, and it's been quiet because he's still in the playoffs, and they really haven't been able to make any announcements or have a lot of rumors kind of circulate, because I think the Dallas staff has probably stayed buttoned down because they've got a task at hand.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask you, not to put you on the spot, but the technicality, can you be talking to an assistant coach while they're in the postseason for a future job? Is that allowed?
Yeah, I think it is. I know in the NFL, which I covered for a long time, there are certain dates when teams are still in the playoffs, like the Monday after, the season, and like the Monday after the first round of the playoffs. There's that window. I would imagine there's that window for the NHL. I don't know for certain, but I think there's got to be a gentleman's agreement that, if you have a highly coveted assistant on your staff, he's going to be, talking to other teams. So there's probably that window. I'm not sure what it is, but as you mentioned, Elliot Friedman had said that it's 15 candidates, and it's hard to believe that of those 15, there's not at least a handful that are still in the playoffs that that are trying to win or were in the playoffs at some point.
No, exactly. And sorry, Kasey, if I can just jump in really quick. I don't know Misha myself, but from even people in the office who've worked for him, we have someone on our staff who worked for the Golden Knights, and people who know of him really say that in terms of personalities, you mentioned one of your first things is they've got to be communicative with the players, that he's like a very approachable, very person forward and like communication forward guy. So that adds to the green flags that we're looking for.
Oh, yeah. Well, and continuing on the green flags, as you mentioned with the conversation and the connection, is there anyone that stands out to you? Like if you were able to wear the GM hat, who would be the top coach that kind of fits the bill for you from all the 15 potentially considered? Yeah,
I think Donskoi is kind of the guy that I would want to take a chance on. Reading a lot about him during the Four Nations, he connected with a lot of those players quickly. He talked about in one story I read that players say he knows how to break things down in a short window. Like, here's our opponent tonight. This is what we need to do. Here's a few clips. Let's go execute. So I think he's got that kind of mix between relatable, but also like kind of data driven. So he's kind of the jock geek combination, and I think that's something that's really appealing at this time.